Are we?
Yeah, it's live. Just spin it around.
Okay, that's weird.
All right, thank you for tuning in. We had a few different difficulties with signal and a couple other things, so getting a little later started here, but we are ready to go, and it has been a busy day, so we'll get to our usual kind of introduction here with the podcast recording. Just a reminder, if this is for anybody kind of tuning in for the first time to one of our live shows down here in San Diego, these are done also for our audio version, so we'll edit it into that, as well as a lot of playback listeners as well, so we try to keep all of that in mind. So we'll have two segments where we take questions in there, so go ahead and feel free to add questions into the chat there. Also, obviously, as a community, feel free to answer each other's questions, but if there's some that are unable to be answered that way, then we'll kind of target those and hit those in the two segments. One kind of about, 40% into the show, and then one towards the end of the show, a little bit before the wrap up and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, and not sure about the orientation first. I guess I messed up the setting or something. I didn't put it for horizontal. That's why it's vertical. So apologize for that, because it just wasn't letting me switch it once it was around time. So apologies.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Parks and Cons Companion Podcast and live show to the parksandcons.com website and YouTube channel, where we discuss cons, theme parks, collecting, and other fun stuff. It's July 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, Sean. I'm here with Carmel.
Hello there.
Parks and Cons, your on spot podcast and live stream, where we take you to the heart of the actually best conventions and themed entertainment events around. Today, we're recording at what will soon be the Hall H line. The tents will be above people in this exact spot here in a few weeks as we get closer and closer to opening, preview night of San Diego Comic-Con 2024. So went with a different spot. Thought, okay, let's shake it up. And this is kind of a nice spot. We actually used this for the backpack video, if anybody watched that a week ago, and this seemed to work pretty well. So we've got a little bit of shade here away from the sun. And so we went with this location. So as with the past shows, we are going to start talking about our day in San Diego here. Then we'll get to the news segment, go to the tips, etc. As we do the rundown. We've got a lot of updates too in the preview section of videos, because we've got, I think, 2 videos in the can, a couple more. So there's going to be a pretty busy week of videos, I would imagine, over the next 7 days as we release those. So we'll go over that as well. But our day in San Diego, it was a lot of traffic coming down. Took a couple hours to get down to the Comic-Con Museum. And at the Comic-Con Museum is where we began things. We weren't able to make it out for their media. Was it last Thursday or something like that? We were busy for their new Betty Boop, Becoming Betty Boop exhibit.
Yeah, it was Thursday. Camp Snoopy was opening, so
right.
We were at Camp Snoopy.
Yeah. So we came down for that, and just to kind of look at it overall. And then also we talked about it. We're doing it with the San Diego Maritime Museum, and we also want to do it at the Comic-Con Museum. Those are the 2 locations we were targeting this year to do our new Extending Your SDCC series. I think we talked about on the last live show. It's just that more and more people seem to be making a longer trip down here, turning it into a bigger vacation. And so we're hoping in the years to come to hit some of those like in the April-May season, so that as we come into June and July, we'll have even more of a library of like, hey, if you're going to add a couple days to your vacation, or even just one day, and you're looking for fun things to do in the San Diego area that are not specifically being on the floor at Comic-Con or being in an activation on that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever, some of those offerings. So we checked out the museum, and it had been, I don't remember quite how long it had been since we'd been there last. It was somewhere within, I thought it was like 6 months, so it may have been a little bit longer, but there's the new Popnology exhibit, which was up, which was really cool to see. Betty Boop, all the masquerade stuff with the cosplay. I mean,
yeah, basically almost everything was different from the last time that we were there. So yeah, it was cool to go and spend some time and see the new stuff.
Yeah. And so we'll have a video coming out of that. If you're coming down and wanting to look at kind of what the Comic-Con Museum is looking like, we'll talk about when we get to the news segment, because also it's not set up yet, but they do have an auction coming up. So they're going to have some pretty cool things on display there. So we'll get to that in the news segment, but we talk a little bit about that in the video as well. And so that'll probably come out tomorrow, if I had to guess. And then we made our way down to the gas lamp area, parked at 6th and K, which is kind of our preferred parking spot on most of these visits. And immediately you saw as we came out the door there, as we're near the Omni side of things, there's the MTS with 1984, which was something that popped up a day or 2 ago, I believe, but something we hadn't seen in person. And then the Safe Man, which I had not seen. I didn't even realize that was a trolley down here, I guess both with Audible. And so I took off running to go get some photos of those, and luckily got those, but it was neat to kind of see those in person.
Yeah, it's always cool to see the new trolleys. Obviously, we've talked about them. We're always kind of stalking them, trying to figure out what things are when they're coming. And and try to get them from a distance and stuff. And so, yeah, seeing those two for the first time was cool. And I saw them from a distance. I did not have the stamina to run to get them like Sean literally did. So, but yeah, he literally ran to get them, and he did, and they look cool.
And we're at the point, like, so to the left of me here, you know, MTS is running, the trolleys are running, and we're at the point now of the season where, like, I wouldn't say more of them are Comic-Con related than not, but a lot of them are Comic-Con related. So, for example, Snowpiercer just passed by a few minutes before at Abbott Elementary going the other way. As I said, we saw 1984 Safe Man. It's just fun. It adds to that kind of theming of the area. Obviously, it's always kind of the earliest thing we're able to find out here that feels Comic-Con. And then a big deal, we saw it was, I think, July 1st? Yeah, so yesterday was the first of them. But the Fantastic Four banners. So the MCU, Marvel's back sponsoring banners along the gas lamp area. So all of 5th Street, it really feels like much quicker did they all go up, because usually when we come down and we're stalking those, it's like they'll be in a couple different spots, and it takes several days for them to hit in front of the convention center, and it'll take a few days to hit the 5th Street area and all of that. But this one, like we saw yesterday, our friend Kim from Outside Comic-Con had gotten great pictures of them, and then coming down, it's like, okay, we'll see them, and it's like, oh, they're everywhere. We don't even have to try to look for them. We don't have to walk over to the convention center. They're just all up and down 5th Street, and so that is fantastic to see. It's nice to see Marvel back in that way. Obviously, there's also been the announcement of them coming back for a panel, which is fantastic. So it's just good to see any of these big, massive companies supporting San Diego Comic-Con. I know it's something that I'm always pretty intense about keeping an eye on and looking at what these companies are doing. And so seeing Marvel like that. The banners themselves look really cool. If you're a fan of Fantastic Four, Life Story, if you're a fan of like old school FF, it really has that vibe to it. It feels very, Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, very kind of that vibe and stuff. And so it said should be something like Tomorrowland, but hopefully, I mean, I didn't really love the Tomorrowland movie. It was fine, but like the aesthetic. But anyway, really cool. Whatever the movie becomes, it's cool just to see it already becoming part of the Comic-Con campus there a few weeks out.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like, it is becoming our campus because obviously there's lots of other shows that take over the convention center. And as we've been coming up the last few weeks, it's like, it's cool just to be down here, but it's not decorated for us. It's decorated for whatever the shows have been. And then still here on Harbor, most of the banners, at least where we're sitting, because we're right across from Petco, are still the Padres. And I don't know if those will get switched out or not, but it is nice when things start to look like they're meant for us, because it's our campus.
And next weekend is ESRI, the Strategic Planning Conference convention that's down here. And they are the ones, if you followed along last year, that did have pretty big wraps up on the Hilton Bayfront. I mean, not the same level as something like Comic-Con, but they definitely had a big presence physically around what becomes the Comic-Con campus. And so that convention experience is a big deal here. And it goes until the 14th. So it really isn't going to be until the 15th that we really see the pedal go to the metal in a lot of ways, and even on the 15th, they'll be vacating, but that's around the time that then it's like, okay, now we're all in. And we see that every year is once they clear out, that's when all the pieces really start to come together. And so it'll be potentially a little slow, but that said, it's felt like a really nice pace so far with so many trolleys. I'm sure more to come on that side, as well as then the Fantastic Four banners coming together. So it definitely feels much more Comic-Con today than it did a week ago, I would say already, and definitely much more than 2 weeks ago. So it starts to move pretty fast here. Yeah,
definitely. And so yeah, it does feel like even that there's more trolleys early than in the past.
Definitely.
So I feel like even last year, maybe there weren't even as many trolleys. I don't know. It feels like there's just more happening, and obviously earlier this time. So that's all very cool to see.
Yeah, a good variety for this early, like still being this many weeks out. It's a good variety. And then we went for a late lunch to Hasta Mañana Cantina. They were one of the spots featured in last week's 5th Street tour. So if you got a chance to follow along with us on that, we did a look at a ton of the restaurants and offerings, different shops and things like that along that corridor up 5th Street. Hasta Mañana is one that moved in. We posted on social a few weeks ago. They took over the spot of Rockin' Baja. So Rockin' Baja on the corner over there, kind of catty corner to where old Spaghetti Factory is. Yeah. And so Rockin' Baja moved a few doors down, and Hasta Mañana Cantina moved in there. And so we posted on social if you want to see pictures of it, but we got the pozole and the...
I got the pozole verde, and then we shared a quesadilla. and both were very tasty. Like the pozole had kind of a spicy kick to it. There that you have to pay extra for the meat, and so I just got the plain pozole. Usually when I've had pozole in the past, it has like the chicken already in it, but it didn't this time. But it did have like the hominy, and it had crispy shallots, so basically kind of like crispy onions in it, which gave it a nice kind of texture, kind of a little crunchiness to it. And then the hominy was good, and the broth was a little thicker than I'm used to with the pozole, but it was very good and very tasty. And then the quesadilla had a couple different cheeses in it, but then like in a big mountain in the middle of it was basically pico de gallo and guacamole and sour cream, and it was all very tasty.
Yeah, the quesadilla was real. The guacamole had lots of like little onions and a few jalapenos mixed in it, and it was just like tasted really fresh. Which one of the things, so if you are not familiar with this area, like on a Tuesday with no Padres game, a lot of this area is shut down. Like it's so kind of always strange, like right now to look around and like there's very few people anywhere around us, but going up 5th Street, like Baja Rick's is just closed. Like they're just dead closed. Mary Jane's closed at 3. They were open for breakfast. And so most places are closed. So it was nice. I mean, they were open, and there's others open, but they were open. But also on top of that, like everything tasted really fresh. It wasn't like it had been sitting there all day. So however they're preparing food and saving it and all of that is really cool. And it's nice because with some changes down here, losing Lolitas and stuff, we are looking more at some different spots to build in there. And so this was appetizers. It was splitting them. But at the end, it was filling for us, and it was $29.10, I believe, before tip. And so after tip, it was $35. And so for 2 people to eat lunch in the gas lamp, $35 seems really good relative to the prices that we see down here right now. So definitely plug Hasta Mañana Cantina when you come out here.
Yeah, and the quesadilla was very good size. Like it was a big plate, and even splitting it, we only ate like half of it, I think. Now, granted, we weren't like super hungry either, but it was very tasty. There's leftovers. I didn't want to leave them at the table because it was really good. But yeah, it was very well sized, and I believe the quesadilla was $15. Again, you can add meat to it. We didn't. And then the pozole, I got the cup, which was $7, and the bowl is $10. But I got the cup and then the soda. So
yeah. Really good service, very clean, beautiful murals inside. It just was like, I was very impressed with it. I wasn't that excited to go there when we were going there, because I was like, we were in a rush to come set up for this, and it's like, I don't know if we have time for a restaurant. And so we went in, and they were great. They were fast, efficient, very kind, awesome, and it all highly recommend.
Yeah, and also the interior looks nothing like it used to look when it was it Rockin' Baja? It's like completely redone, and it looks really pretty in there and very nice. And the music was a little loud for me, but that's just because, we're old or something, and the loud music, but it was very comfortable, and they have booths and tables and high tops, and you can sit at the bar, and there's outdoor seating and stuff. So yeah, it was just all like exceeded my expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really have any expectations going into it, but I was really satisfied and pleased with what we ended up with. So
yep, 100%. So with that, so it hasn't been we only ended up like an hour and a half down here so far. So we haven't done a lot of hunting around down here. We will probably do a little bit more before we leave today, but our main destination was the Comic-Con Museum, and then a few of these things that we've talked about here, with some more to follow after this, and we'll get to that. But let's talk about the news. So there has been a lot of news in the last week, as there always is. The news gets so heavy each day as you trudge closer to Comic-Con. I know, like for us doing Anime Expo, we have that not the next 4 days. It's July 4th through the Sunday the 7th. It's like our inbox is just filled with Comic-Con press releases and Anime Expo press releases, and there's just so many of them. So the news gets very heavy as we get to this time of year, but we just picked a few that were of interest to us. Once again, always plugging our friends at the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog. Of course, I can't imagine there's many people that would be watching us here that aren't familiar already with the site, but they do such a great job of aggregating all of that information and putting it into one very useful spot. But at the top of the list for me in terms of like the news, it was a big news that Hasbro is back actually selling things physically at the convention. That is very interesting to me. So they're coming back. They are doing in-person sales. They announced they have Transformers Legacies United Voyager class Fractured Friendships, so that's $75 for that 2-pack. G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander Once a Man. If you've ever seen the G.I. Joe movie, you probably want that figure. I know I do. That's $39.99. Marvel Legends Death's Head. Such a cool, like, I need Death's Head and Cobra Commander, so definitely we'll either need to win the lottery or we'll need help trading or something. So if you're out there and you end up with an extra of those, maybe hit us up as we get to the convention. And then for Star Wars, the Black Series Darth Maul with the Sith Speeder. It's kind of a replica of the 12-inch version back in the day of the Sith with his speeder, $59.99. So pretty decent prices, again, relative to what Hasbro's been charging and just the state of prices in the world of toys and collectibles and all of that. Now, interesting on the floor map that came out today, so we can kind of lump that in here as huge news, you know, the floor map coming and what's missing and what's there. They have the same location as they have had the last few years. They don't have their second booth to sell. They're doing the lottery, but that still doesn't seem like anywhere near enough room. So we will see what that means. I wonder if they're going to try to do something off-site and have a pickup at a different location. If they're, you know, we know last year they were in Sparks Gallery doing their kind of little off-site activation there, which did not seem all that popular at the end of the day. I know we went by, but it just, every time we heard about it, it just seemed like it was, once people got the gist of what it wasn't the most exciting of locations there, although they did sell a few exclusives there as well, but it was off-site there, different than obviously being inside the convention floor. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I'm very, very curious, but I am excited that Hasbro is back doing that, and hopefully it just expands from here. It'll be interesting seeing how things go in the years ahead of the trends of these various companies and their online sales and all of those types of things.
Yeah, definitely very excited to see how and where they're planning to sell, because if you've not been on the Hasbro booth the last year or two when they're, you know, haven't been selling, so they only have the one spot, it's like they have a stage and they have all these massive displays, which are all really great to see, but it makes for a very, very crowded footprint. It's very tough to maneuver in there, and it's tough to even like see the stuff on display because it's so compact. So unless they're removing the stage, which seems weird because they have that stage and they use it like for signings and for presentations and different things. Unless they move the stage, I don't know really where you sell there. So it seems like it must be off-site or something.
Yeah, even with that, I don't think they can sell there, even if they got rid of the stage, because unless they're just like, we're not bringing Dungeons and Dragons, we're not bringing Magic, we're not bringing, you know, Nerf. I mean, they may not be bringing Indiana Jones this year. That would make sense if that kind of disappeared. But yeah, the booth is way overcrowded as it is, and so yeah, a retail section doesn't really make sense. So I have not looked very close to the map. I'll admit it just came out as we were down here in the middle of everything, so maybe I've missed some other spot down there that makes sense, but we'll see, to be continued. But obviously the big news also with that, with, you know, before Hasbro had announced anything, is just that the portal returns. Not any big surprise there. So once again, you'll have, you know, big signings, hopefully, as part of that. You'll have of course, various exclusives. You'll get your tokens, you know, decide how you want to allocate those. July 8th through the 18th is the window for those. As we've talked about in past podcasts and videos and things like that, we always wait till the end of the window because things get added and deleted as you get closer to the convention and that due date. So I've never really understood, for myself at least, I don't even look at it until, like, in this case, I probably won't even look at it till like July 16th, to be honest, just because things get added, things get deleted. I see people say things on social media. That's up the extent that I pay attention to it. Until it's time to actually put my tokens in, I don't really care too much about it. But it is interesting having Hasbro be part of that again, because we haven't had that. So we've thrown, you know, all of our tokens into, like, here's a signing, and then let's throw them into Funko or something like that. Like, there hasn't been a lot of things that we've even wanted to allocate our tokens to. So maybe some Jazzwares, things like that. But now, because I do want those figures, it's like, okay, I got to get more strategic about it. Also, hopefully, there are more signings. You know, the signings of the old days for longtime attendees, you know, something like the WB booth and having some of those big signings there was just like so epic, you know. And so if there are any of those types of signings coming back, although we know WB itself doesn't have a booth as much as DC / WB, but we'll be keeping an eye on that. But definitely keep an eye on your own portal there, and yeah, start thinking about what you're going to want to spend them on as you hear these various announcements of what cool exclusives are out there. So Next up, big one for a lot of people. I know it's one of like the most sought after of a lot of the parties for many is the fandom party returns. And so I know that's always one of those mega announcements. I feel like that's one of those like Conan, or there's some of these things that, over these years that people like really will be let down. And like Conan, it was a big letdown when that disappeared, And so fandom party is a big deal. It's a beautiful party that they do there. It is very awesome. We're very appreciative that we've been able to go a number of times. We haven't really done much trying to do it in a couple years now, I believe. I feel like maybe since the pandemic. I don't know, because as we've addressed in other areas, we just had our 10th anniversary event. We're not big fans of parties in general, so it's not really as much our thing. We we love the fun days exclusives, don't love necessarily the party aspect of it quite as much. But so fandom is very popular and very awesome and very amazing. So I'm sure people will enjoy it greatly, but I don't think it's anything that either of us are too into.
Yeah, I mean, if we get invited as media or something, I'm sure we'll we'll stop by if we're able to and stuff, and cover it, just because of course we enjoy covering things and experiencing as much as possible. Plus, just being on top of the Hard Rock and having that view is insane. I mean, that alone is like worth the stop to me, because it is so beautiful from up there. But yeah, I don't think we'll be like fighting for it or anything like that. So.
Another big announcement from today, and we knew that this documentary is coming. Had heard, I think Mark Waid had talked about before that it was eventually going to be coming to Comic-Con, or they were kind of, I think what he had said specifically was, it'll be out, or we'll be making a big appearance at a big convention in California somewhere in July. And it's like, okay, there it is. But today was the official announcement, a documentary on the origins of Kingdom Come, one of the all-time great comics. It's hard to believe with Kingdom Come how much time has passed, but also that Mark Waid and Alex Ross, who are the creatives behind it, that they're like, it just feels like it's such a classic that it's been around for like 100 years or something, and that's not the case. It's not that old. But anyway, I am excited about that documentary. I don't know, we don't have details yet on days or times or things like that. I would imagine Waid and Ross will be there. They're both great. Alex Ross is not one to leave the house a whole lot. He does not do very many conventions. So if he's coming to Comic-Con, that'll be a pretty big deal. So we'll see. But a big announcement there. Also, I think this was announced today too. Like I said, this all starts coming so fast here, but we talked about the Comic-Con Museum. Thought it was a pretty big announcement. The team up with TCM and Julian's Auctions to host an exhibit there leading up to the show itself and the auction itself. So starting July 15th, they will have these various artifacts on display there. So if you are, tying back to our video that we have coming out, if like you're coming out to the San Diego area and have a few extra days or even one extra day and want to check out the Comic-Con Museum, or you maybe have a badge for Thursday but not Friday, this could be a really great spot to stop in. But the Spotlight series has Harry Potter, other heroes. They've got movie props, wardrobe, production materials, includes Harry Potter, Batman franchise, Superman, Marvel Studios films, X2, X-Men United, Looney Tunes, and more. And again, that starts July 15th, Comic-Con Museum, goes to the 28th, and then actually that July 28th is the auction itself at 10 a.m. And so you can watch that online there and see how much these items go for there. But it's pretty exciting that they're going to have that. We just have been going to the Van Eaton. If you're a Disney fan or even a pop culture fan, Van Eaton in LA does all sorts of great auctions that include Star Wars and Star Trek and Planet of the Apes, but Disney they really lean into. And so a family member just had a big showing there with their stuff on display, and it was just awesome because you go into the location and it's like a museum, but all the stuff's for sale. So unlike a museum where it's all being stored there forever, in this case, it's a museum where everything's for sale. Not stuff we can afford, but it's still cool to see it there. And so I'm really excited the Comic-Con Museum has that. And I feel like this is going to be something that's going to draw a lot of fans out to check out these things firsthand and be a really nice tie-in to the convention itself. Love that it's starting far enough in advance. Like we saw with Sonic last year, I think these things that can start a week or two early just get a lot of traction rolling into the con, because once Wednesday, Thursday comes, some people are too busy to leave the convention area. There's so many, I'll use the word distractions, but not in a pejorative way. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on here that it's hard, no matter how much you want to go to the Comic-Con museum. It may be tough to get in the car or take a, bus over or a Uber or whatever, but starting early, it can get a lot of traction going. People can start sharing on social media what it is, and that may really draw people in. The best part of the announcement, I thought, though, in addition, was that part of that TCM Julian's announcement was that this is a plan to have this be an ongoing thing, which would be really cool if every, like Van Eaton, they're doing these auctions every couple months. And so there's always a reason to stop by their galleries out in, is it Glendale there?
It
Whatever,
is not Glendale. Sherman Oaks, maybe? Okay. I'm not sure.
But there's just always a reason to stop by there and check out, because it's like this store/museum that keeps evolving. And so to see the Comic-Con museum have a facet like that to go along with these other great exhibits like the Popology that we were checking out today, I'm pretty excited about that, not just for this year, but the future of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think being able to see some of those things on display and stuff is just fun, and as kind of this added thing. As we were there, I was kind of wondering, like, where is it going to be exactly? So I'm not sure what display is going to be removed from what we saw today. Like I said, they're always kind of changing it. They do have a section downstairs that's like focused on cosplay right now. I kind of wonder if that one might be where the area is going to be taken up instead of the auction. Although there was like a curtain, so it might look like there might, I don't know if it's storage or if it's kind of a display room kind of off to the side of that display. So maybe there's room even to keep everything that's there and add this other display or exhibit. Not sure, but yeah, it's kind of exciting to be able to go and see these artifacts and stuff as part of our San Diego visits.
Mm-hmm. Another exciting piece of news: $7 a pop, who has really grown in the convention scene the last few years. I feel like particularly since the pandemic, they're one of those companies I feel like has really found ways to be creative in the space. And so, for example, last year, $7 a pop at San Diego Comic-Con, they were kind of like the center of the signing universe in a lot of ways there. They brought people there. And so getting Ross Marquand of Walking Dead, but also Red Skull, like he was there. And last year, there wasn't a whole lot of Hollywood celebrities making their way to San Diego Comic-Con, but to get his autograph there, to talk to him at their booth was a real highlight. And so they've announced Ashley Eckstein's going to be there. I mean, no one more popular these days for autographs than Ashley Eckstein. So she'll be there. Steve Downs is going to be there. Sean Astin will be there. Jen Taylor, amongst a few others. So that is an opportunity there to buy autographs, different than like winning a lottery and getting a free poster signed or things like that. And so you can check out them, of course, online there again over at the U blog, and they have all the details of pricing and things like that. Toddland has made a few announcements. There's still a little bit more to come. One of their properties, we know they've expanded their properties and their footprint this year, but one's still a secret. I know the highlight for me so far, the excitement has been that they're working with King of the Hill. I think King of the Hill is like one of the great all-time cartoons. I think Bobby Hill is one of the great all-time comedic figures. Just such an incredibly funny character, the way that one is written. But anyway, Bob's Burgers, of course, Futurama now joining the group as well. Solar Opposites, Family Guy, American Dad, The Great North. They've got a lot going on there. They're going to be at 4429 as well as 4423, where they have the Animation Domination booth, and then the yet to be revealed third location. So they've been in the process of pre-orders. They do a really good job. Todd is very conscious of being fan friendly. I think one of the most fan friendly, if not the most fan friendly, of kind of that next level of bigger business. Not that they're the biggest, but I mean, these are big properties that he works with, and they're very much about being fan friendly, and I love that about them. And I mean, he had posted a tweet a little bit ago about just these billion-dollar businesses that are taking Comic-Con off, and that always just drives me nuts when you have businesses kind of trying to pull a few pennies aside to not come and greet the fans. I think Comic-Con's an important pop culture spot, and I think it's really important that these businesses come out and come and say hi to the fans and do a little FaceTime. And so I know you don't have any of those challenges at Toddland, but I just thought it's really cool that they are growing so much. It's a lot to be taking on there. But of course, you can find all that information about the pre-orders, about prices, about pickup, shipping, all of those different options over at the U blog as well there. And then BB Create, that'll be our last segment, our last piece of the news segment here, and then we'll get to some questions. BB Create, our friends, we once again thank them for sponsoring our event. People were very excited about some of their items that they found as part of the giveaways this last weekend as we had our 10th anniversary event. But they have been teasing for a while these really incredibly cool Star Wars San Diego mashups where you're seeing like X-Wings and you're seeing pieces of Convention Center or Petco, and they finally have revealed again all over at the blog there. I'm just going to read the line. They'll transport Star Wars fans to iconic locations around the Convention Center with a special galactic twist. Each day of the convention, they'll launch a new exclusive pin that merges familiar sites around the con, including Petco and the Gaslamp Corner with the universe of Star Wars. There'll be a new pin available daily from Wednesday on preview night for $20 each and into Sunday. If you manage to collect all 5 pins, you'll receive a free exclusive mystery pin. So BB Create, some of the nicest people we've ever met. They were so positive about jumping in and helping us with our event and just nonstop positivity. And so really excited for them because they're always great people. They always have great stuff. But I feel like particularly these designs just really nail what I know a lot of us love most about exclusives is when they can tie into the physical landscape, like when it's something that wouldn't make sense to show up at, I don't know, C2E2 or New York Comic Con or Emerald City. Like these things are very specifically San Diego exclusives, and I love that. So definitely check them out if you haven't already.
Yeah, and I think they, in general, when they go to shows, they do try to have like one or something pin that is exclusive to that show and that area and has some sort of call into the local area. But yeah, this is a whole other level with as many as they're doing and stuff. And yeah, they're great. And on the note of thanking sponsors, we should also thank Toddland because they also sponsored our event and had some amazing components that we were able to add to the giveaways that people that were at our event were able to take home, and just super excited about those as well.
Definitely. All right, let's hit up. Do we have any questions? I know there's a lot of conversations in there, but anything that we specifically need you want to highlight?
Scrolling to the top. Manny, thank you for the congratulations on the 10 years.
Ryan K, Voodoo Ranger. Yes, we had heard there's some really exciting components to that. And so not that it's not always exciting, but yeah, it's cool to hear that it's back officially and that will be part of this whole Comic-Con again. I feel like that ship coming in, which we recorded on just, what was it, last week or the week before, thanks to the friends at the San Diego Maritime Museum.
I think that was last? No.
It was the week before, yeah. It's great to be on that ship, but having that ship pull up behind the convention center has become one of the real big, if it wasn't there, it'd be sad, basically. You know, it's one of those things is these things happen one year and it's cool, it happened. And then they disappear. And then it's oh, that's so sad that they're, gone. And so, yeah. Let's see, anything else here? Lots of conversations. Predictions from Noel Gonzalez, SDCC Marvel Phase 6, Phase 7 predictions coming in. Very curious to see what they do. I mean, last time they were here, they kind of reset the table, and now it feels like they kind of need to reset the table again. Thank you, Pandora576. Love the backpack video. Thank you for checking that out. Alejandro Hurtado, thank you. It's good to see you at our event last weekend. Thank you so much. What are you looking most forward to? That's a great question. Do you have an answer to that?
I do not. I don't think. I mean, I'm, of course, most looking forward to just kind of catching up with people and seeing friends that we haven't seen in a while. But as far as specifics of the show and stuff, I feel like there's still, I don't know enough yet to get too excited. So we shall see. How about you?
The thing I'm always most excited about is the unknown. I mean, just to be honest, every single year it's the unknown. Of course, there'll be physical things, there'll be exclusives, there'll be offsites, but it always is the unknown. And it is things that just pop up that we go into the show on Wednesday and don't know exist. So that's always my most excited. That's never really changed since the beginning. It's what made me fall in love with Comic-Con. Even though it was a much smaller show, all things considered, in 2005, there was still an element of surprise even in those days to it. And so that's always the thing is what's going to happen that, on that Sunday night when it's all over, we're wow, I never thought we were going to do that, or we never thought we'd see that. Mikey asked, any chance you saw an update on Arcade Monsters opening? We didn't, but we didn't get to go by there yet. So that's probably something we'll check out. And if we find anything, we'll definitely post that on our social there. Yes, the trolley wraps seemed really early this year. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact timeline. I know our friends at the blog keep an exact list of those things, so they could tell us exactly how close it was. I think it was around, but it does feel like there's a much greater variety. And this is all anecdotal. I don't have any data to support it, but it definitely feels like I said, here comes one right now as I'm looking to my left, 1984 and the Safe Man. And so, yeah, it's a rotation.
On one of these earlier lives, I think Carrie piped in and she did verify, and I don't remember the exact specifics, but she did verify that that they're being seen earlier, and then obviously the show's kind of a week later than it's been, so it's definitely more time or earlier than in the past.
Our friend Big Red Journeys asked any good meet and greet signings offsites available for purchase, so beyond the celebrities that you have in the sales pavilion. So our friends over at the blog do keep a list of those things coming. So there will definitely be a breakdown there. They find all of that information and aggregate it there. So definitely keep an eye on that. I know it's one of the things, so not to skip ahead here, but one of the things we're going to work on today is, after many years of people asking and never having done it, we're going to do a beginner's guide to Comic-Con. I don't know how good it'll be. We'll see. I have it scripted out. We'll see, and I'll talk about that. But we've had a lot of requests. It feels like more than ever this year. And so, like, after we get done with this live, it's like, okay, let's shoot this thing and do a beginner's guide. And so hopefully it'll help people that are new to it. But one of the things that's, to me, a big deal in talking to new people to San Diego Comic-Con particularly is how different signings work here and photo ops and things like that. Because if you go to an LA Comic-Con, an Emerald City, a Phoenix Fan Fusion, Fan Expo shows, etc., they have an area that's just like, here's the massive autograph hall, and there is, Michael J. Fox, and there is Patrick Stewart, and there's William Shatner, and you can pay, and then over here's Ewan McGregor, and we're going to do photos. And San Diego just is its own animal in them. They don't have that. They have the sales pavilion, but it's not those types of stars by any means. I still love the celebrities that show up there, and I've gotten a lot of autographs and sales, but it's not the same. So good question there, and definitely watch the blog as they put those lists out and see. Chad Capone, good to hear from you, Chad. I really like the retro toys they had on display at Sparks. Agreed. That was a very cool part of it. He's referring to the Hasbro offsite activation that they had. They had some great stuff there, particularly in the world of G.I. Joe, I think. Cars 1, 2, 2, 3. Wish Lego would come back this year too. Bring us back to 2019 and before. Could not agree more. Lego, I mean, it's just they're one of the ones that's kind of disappointing of how they've handled things in the last few years, because if you're a longtime attendee, Lego was epic for a long time. Like, their minifigure drawings, their exclusives, they were epic. And so although their booth looked amazing last year, it's not the same type of thing that they used to do at all. And so love Pink Hello Kitty, good to hear from you. I wonder if TV Guide is coming back. Good question. Also, is the IMDb boat coming back? I am not sure on either of those that they have been announced yet. Undo exhibit. There's, I think, okay. Checking. Okay, I think we will. Feel free to drop them in. There we go, straight to VHS. Who doesn't love getting a Herb Jefferson autograph in the sales area? Yep. If you've not seen Herb Jefferson at a con, then you've not been to a con in California prior. You just didn't realize that you should be paying attention to Herb Jefferson. All right, as we go into the next part of the show here, real quick, we want to preview things coming out on our channel and in other places there. So we did shoot our Outside the Convention Center video. That's one of our kind of bigger guides to like just life outside of the convention center here. As you know, as I think everybody watched this knows, we had a pretty big 10th anniversary event Sunday, so that video has not yet been edited. So although we shot it last year, the hope is that it is up there in the next 24 hours, though. So we will update you on that, and we'll send that over to our friends at the blog. They'll have a post with it, but hopefully very soon there. We are going to be shooting that beginner's guide, as I said, so if you're someone newer to Comic-Con, that might be something that's useful to you, and so we'll have that posted here hopefully in the next few days. One of the complications for us with our channel and stuff we do is we are about to get sucked into Anime Expo, and Anime Expo is actually one of, physically, it's like it feels way more crowded than San Diego Comic-Con. Like, it always feels just massively, busier. But also the thing about it is there's a lot going on there, and we do a lot of video work there, and a lot of people seem to enjoy the videos from that event. So we'll have that kind of mixed in there as well. So just something to kind of keep an eye out there. There's going to be a bunch of Anime Expo stuff coming in with the San Diego stuff. Then we also have the Extending Your SDCC Comic-Con Museum video coming up here that we referenced earlier. And then lastly, we will be shooting, hopefully soon, whether it be tomorrow or it may have to wait till after Anime Expo. We'll see. But we will be doing our annual visual guide where we take the map of the exhibit hall floor and talk a little bit about some of the booths there, what you can expect from different sections of the floor, how to access it, and people seem to really find that one useful. I know that video to me is important because it's really, in a lot of ways, how Parks and Cons began. Is I remember asking people on Twitter back in like 2009 when I joined about like, hey, how did you get that Hasbro exclusive? How did you do this? And they would say, oh, I just lined up at 4 and I walked straight to the booth. And I'm like, but we lined up at 3 and we walked straight to the booth and didn't get it. And then I found out like, oh wait, they had hookups, like they had an exhibitor badge or things like that. So to me, it's really important to do like a comprehensive look at the floor and talk about it from a real person that'll be, you know, waiting to jam down those escalators, as you and I always do, and talk about, you know, some of those booths are just capped before you ever even get on the floor. So we'll talk about those types of things in that video. So a bunch of videos coming up in the next week. And as I said, a lot from Anime Expo. So if you're a fan of both, there'll be lots for you. Cosplay, there's nothing like Anime Expo. We usually do daily lives from the lobby of Anime Expo, and it is just incredible, the stuff that's there. So if you want to see some really fantastic cosplay, there's also usually several booths there like Viz, Udon, etc. that end up having displays there that end up right here at San Diego Comic-Con. So in a lot of ways for us, it ends up being a tiny preview. Not in all ways, you know, you're not going to see Marvel at Anime Expo, but there are a lot of things there that preview. I mean, Netflix is going to be there with their Terminator series coming, so there's going to be some fun stuff there that maybe crosses over more than some might think there. On our swag bags, we wanted to just real quick shout out. Well, we announced the winner last week, so I guess not shout out, but we do have another swag bag coming up here. So we're still in the process of mailing out prizes. So from our winner last week, that one is going to be in the mail here real soon, but we'll have another one of those bags going up on X/Twitter there. So if you're interested in that, please check that out. And as I said before, we will be doing prize drops around San Diego Comic-Con throughout the convention weekend there. So follow along with us for more on that. We did want to thank everybody who either attended the 10th anniversary event or who supported, sending in donations and stuff like that. Massive, massive thanks. It was incredible to gather with all 60 of you and just kind of do a live show, do a bunch of giveaways, and just kind of have a fun time with the whole thing there.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, my phone where I'm reading the comments got all wonky, and now I'm having trouble seeing the comments on the phone that I'm usually reading them on. So I was trying to figure that out, and it's still being funky. So I'll look at that again. But yeah, no, thank you so much. And yeah, the event was insane on Sunday, and I'm still kind of processing everything that happened. It was very humbling and kind of overwhelming how much support there was, both from the attendees that bought tickets and from our friends who helped us get the thing like up and running, because there was a lot. And I don't know if Sean put together some really cool kind of activities for people to do while they were there and stuff. And so it was incredible to catch up with so many people, but it was just kind of overwhelming, and so I'm still kind of processing everything that happened on Sunday. But yeah, thank you to all of you who supported in the different ways that you may have.
Yeah, and the audio version of the podcast, so we did do a live show there, about an hour, 20 minutes, that dives into all sorts of San Diego Comic-Con stuff, amongst many other things, is up on on any podcast feed, wherever it is you find podcasts there. And then for Patreon supporters over on Mighty Networks, there's video. There's also video of the entire floor, although we did put up video on social media too, if you want to see. I mean, the giveaways we had there are like nothing we have ever done by far, and I don't know that we'll ever do it again unless we do like a 20th anniversary one of these or something like that. But it was because of all of those of you that sponsored that we were able to do that. So very, very much appreciated. Then also in the event realm there, we did announce officially up on our Patreon there on our Mighty Networks that we are bringing back, it'll be our second annual preview night morning, if we want to call it that, preview morning tour. So if you are a patron, we thank you so much. If you're going to be at Comic-Con on Wednesday morning and you want to do kind of a walking tour that's in the vein of like what I do for a week or so or more before the convention, of just swarming around and finding things to share, from wraps to trolley things to offsite builds, all of that. All the information is there up on Mighty Network. So please sign up. I forget the exact due date, but we do need to know about a week and a half beforehand of who's going to be joining us there, so we can kind of plan out some of the logistics there of what we're doing. So please make sure to sign up. We really don't don't have room for people to add in like the day before, things like that. So please take care of that. And again, huge thanks to everybody that's donates, whether it's one-time things via, whether it's the chat things on YouTube, whether it's the PayPal donations, whether it's Patreon. We appreciate all of it. So very, very much. All right, let's talk about tips real quick. So we have a few tips coming in here. Throughout the week, if you want to go back and look at everything we've posted, you can always just search hashtag SDCC tips, and we have them there. If you follow along on Instagram, we have a lot of those there saved in our stories as well. Those are different ways, but want to highlight a few that maybe need a little more or can use a little bit more articulation here. So first up in that category, remember to be honest with friends and families that ask for SDCC favors. Most things at the show are challenging and can take many hours of commitment or even impossible. And so a lot of people chime in on that when we posted that one, just because what was kind of a common thing I felt like shared is like, when I first started going, I listened to that a little bit more. And then as I became more of a veteran, I realized that couldn't be a thing. And there are exceptions that come up. I've shared before the story. We had a friend reach out during the con about a Halloween, so Michael Myers, Bill Sienkiewicz poster giveaway at the Sienkiewicz booth. And I'm like, this is not happening. Like, we're not going to be able to get this. But I didn't even realize it was going on, and then go and did some snooping around and found it. And then at the end of the con, they gave me like a stack of 20 of them or something like that. And so I had those for giveaways for years. So it ended up being something that actually was awesome once you found out. But, being honest with them, a lot of things take a lot of time. Some things are just impossible. Some things require lottery wins and you can't get those and whatever. But definitely, I know, at least for myself, there was a few years as Comic-Con kind of transitioned from like so many physical giveaways to a lot less. There was years we used to bring massive WB bags home for like every child in our life, like every niece, nephew, friends, kids. And then it got less and less that the con would give out. And there reached a year, maybe it was 2016 or around there or something like that, that we just didn't get enough stuff anymore to do. And I felt so guilty, like I was letting them down. But for new attendees, it's just important to know that, like, be honest with the family and friends that it's going to take a lot. Maybe you give it a shot, maybe you don't. But hopefully you don't feel guilty the way I did when it kind of started to expire for me.
Yeah, I really just need to be honest with them. And like, I always say, well, try, but I don't think that's going to happen because it's really tough to get, whatever. And yeah, if it's like, a really cool Funko, it's like, there's a lottery, there's a whole process. I'll try, but no promises by any means. So yeah, you really need to prep those friends and family and stuff and be sure that they're not like counting or banking on you coming home with something, because it just may literally be impossible. But I mean, obviously, if you're, in different groups and stuff, sometimes you can trade for things and stuff, but then it's all this time that you're spending that, you have this limited amount of time while Comic-Con is going on. And then if you're spending all your time chasing down or tracking down someone's thing that they want you to, bring home for them and stuff, it's up to you, what you have going on and if you want to do that. But generally, we kind of start from, probably not going to happen. We'll try, but probably not. And then if we, make it happen or whatever, then, that's cool and they're surprised. But definitely try to prep everybody for, it's probably not happening, but I'll try.
The next one, during the convention, make sure to monitor social media to get a handle on offsite specifics. I think this is something we talk about in the outside convention center video that we'll have coming up in the next day or two here. But the idea that social media is very helpful, Twitter, X, to get a handle on what is the experience, what is the capacity, are there giveaways, what are the wait times? Every year there's these activations where it's like, they say it's going to be about an hour and it ends up being 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. And so social media, we always crowdsource answers to those things to try to figure out what the value is of them. And that being said, a lot of times, the least busy time is the Thursday of Comic-Con. And so in that case, you're not going to have that information to pull from. So it is a tough kind of balance there. Is like, if you want to go check out Petco Interactive Zone, for example, the Petco Zone there, Thursday will be when it's least busy, but also there's like no information about it as of Thursday. And there may even be some activations that aren't up and running until later in the day, Thursday or Friday or Saturday. So there is a balance there. I just know one of the things that I've tried to be really careful of, and I think whenever we talk to new attendees particularly, is just always, time is the greatest currency. Anything that takes time at Comic-Con is like taking money out of your wallet. You only have a finite amount of money in that wallet of terms of time. So even just walking to Petco from the convention center takes a good little chunk of time, all things considered, when you have the big crowds and you're moving from the floor, especially if you're down by like Hall C or something like that. So, you know, weigh those things in, be careful with that. We've known many attendee that have gotten locked up in, you know, old Game of Thrones lines for 9 hours or things like that. And they're like, well, in the end, you know, I got a cool picture, but I don't think that's really how I wanted to spend my day. Everything has an opportunity cost to it. But I do think social media, I know immediately I'll start doing searches if there's something I'm curious about and seeing like, well, what are people saying about this? What is going on with this? You know, last year I think it was like, oh, people, there's something about Blue Beetle. Okay, what's going on with Blue Beetle? Oh, they're handing out Reese's peanut butter cups. Not a huge thing, didn't take a long time, but that's how I figured out like what was going on with it, is just by doing a quick search there. So as we've talked about before, there's really nothing as effective as X/Twitter to do that stuff. And it really is your friend. The more in your party that can help monitor that, the better, because you can kind of divide and conquer and do searches. But do make sure you kind of know what you're getting into before you commit yourself to a long, you know, 30, 45-minute walk to get in some 2-hour line or whatever it might be there. And then last up on our tips there, to speed up access. So this is a personal, request. If you're anybody coming down the escalator, I may do this tip just for myself because it's something, but coming down that escalator at the, you know, crush of humanity in the mornings for that floor. Again, we talked about the 10th anniversary event. It truly, Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, that coming down the escalator at 9 a.m. to be on the floor is one of my favorite things in the entire year. I love it so much. But nonstop, people will have like their badges turned around. They'll have their badges. Just hold those badges up so they can see them, so security, so people don't die like fumbling, because there are people are like walking fast behind you. It's like being on a freeway. I never really see people running. I see people be very respectful of that rule of walking, but people can walk pretty fast, and all of a sudden you get to the door and the person like has their badge in their pocket, or they have their badge turned around or whatever like that. So holding those badges up helps security at every entrance, just to kind of like, obviously there's the tap in and tap out, but even in those other areas where tap in, tap out, it's a little thing, but security has a really challenging job at this convention, as anybody who's attended knows. And so anything to do to help them out is appreciated, and I think it helps the attendees as well. So those are our quick tips for this week, and again, we'll have more of them on Instagram as well as Twitter/X in the week to come there. All right. Any more questions before we go to the last couple segments?
Yeah, so Nico Brandon asked if you recommend bringing a chair while waiting in line in the morning.
We never have, so we can't recommend it. Now, that said, we have seen people, there's like those new ones that, like, I shouldn't say they're new, but like they unscrew.
They kind of collapse.
Yeah, I believe our friend Kate Spector out there had one in Phoenix that was like fantastic and looked cool. We've never done it. To me, it's a lot like the fan. Like, it's never a big enough deal to me. And also, like, for me, like, I'm like moving, like I'm all over the place and stuff. And so the less that can weigh me down, I already get weighed down enough with my backpack of, you know, having waters and stuff in there. So I've never brought the chair, but I would concur with anybody that says they look great and they seem to work really efficiently and really great all the way around there. So it's not that I don't recommend them by at all, because they seem great. I've just never used them myself in terms of buying one and bringing them or things like that. Yeah,
and I never have either. I wasn't part of that experience, so I've not. But we're good with just sitting on the ground too. So obviously right now we're sitting on grass, well, on a blanket on grass. So
if I recall, with that one, what was really unique is in Phoenix, very weird rule. Mm-hmm. So at Phoenix Fan Fusion, waiting for autographs, I think we were waiting, I don't remember if it was Grant Gustin or whatever, but they were not allowing you to sit on the ground, but you could sit on a stool if you had it. For whatever, they said it was a fire marshal rule, right? And so the guy in front of us had one, and he loaned it to me with my bad feet, and it actually was like a real lifesaver there. But I've never heard of that. That seemed like the wackiest thing I've ever heard of, that you weren't allowed, that you had to sit on a stool and could not sit on the floor. But in that case, it was a very helpful thing. But anyway, they look cool. They're very compact. There's some great ones out there that you can pull off Amazon. So it's definitely, you know, and if you like them out there, let us know. And yeah, who knows? I
think I saw a comment or two in here of people who said that they do use them, so that they would take them. But yeah, so DB is asking, first time going to preview night, where do people line up, and is there multiple entries?
So we'll have that in our convention center video, and we'll go over that. But there is the everything else line for preview night. That's the everything line, basically. For the other days, it's like Hall H or everything else. It will zigzag behind us here, out through the bayfront, out into the ocean, practically out there, out into the bay. But yeah, it'll be very, I shouldn't say it's very easy, but I find it's very easy. Just you kind of keep walking, you see that line and you keep going there. And so you'll find it, but we'll have it in the video. We also have video from inside the convention center that we've utilized from the past that Carmel cuts into it to really try to show very easily. If you're interested in checking it out, like you could check it out tonight, is just go to our 2023 playlist and do the convention center guide, and you'll see exactly where to line up and all of that. And as of this recording, at least, there's no reason to believe that it's any different than what we have in that video from last year. So it should be pretty easy to find there.
And the chat just got wonky on me again. So let's see. I don't think I'm seeing any other questions. Yeah.
Okay. If we missed it, obviously you can reach out to us on social media as well, and we can hit you back that way. And of course, I can email too if they're more intricate questions over at comments@parksandcons.com there, or you can go to our website and just click the Contact Us tab there. So as we're looking ahead, go watch it. We've got our videos. We've talked about Sugar Bear. We've gotten high marks from people that have visited Sugar Bear over here with their sweet treats. People seem to really love that. Vega Cafe as well. People have seemed to enjoy that video and actually eating at the restaurant itself. We've had 3 of these other live tip shows. So if you want to check in on any of those, if you haven't already, there we have the SDCC Quick Eats video, which people have seemed to be finding some fun stuff there to eat. The 5th Street tour, if you're just curious kind of what the state of what the activity level is on 5th Street there of restaurants, shops, all of those types of things, the CVS, ATMs, etc. We've got that video up on the channel, and then we have the backpack video up on the channel. And then, as I mentioned, we have about 4 more videos in addition to this live coming up here somewhere in the middle of this Anime Expo madness that we have in the next week. Once we finish up with Anime Expo, really there's not much that we cover besides San Diego Comic-Con, so it's kind of for ourselves getting to the 8th. It's kind of like, okay, now it's full steam ahead. There's a little thing. Actually, we have a Universal Studios Hollywood Media Day next week as well. But for the most part, it's mostly San Diego Comic-Con stuff coming from there. So you'll find most of our social feeds and YouTube will be full of that, so you can check it out there. So we will be back down here again with our next live show, this version of it, the late afternoon, early evening of July 11th. So that's basically next Thursday, not this Thursday coming up in 2 days, but a week from Thursday, we'll be back down here for that. We might come down here again for something else in between. We don't know. We're not really sure how it's going to work with work schedules and things like that, but the next planned one of these and recon trip and all of that is the 11th. So we hope you'll join us. Again, I'm guessing there will be a whole lot more news and a whole lot more visuals around the gas lamp, even though we won't be past Esri yet. There still will probably be more to kind of share from that as well. So we thank you for tuning in. As we wrap up, please consider helping support us by by becoming a part of our Parks and Cons crew. Big thanks. We've had a lot of people join in the last few weeks here. We thank you for joining us there. We do appreciate that support of the work. It all helps greatly. There's also the PayPal link on our homepage if you want to just do like a one-time donation or things like that. If you've not already done so, please leave a thumbs up for this video. That helps people to find us in that messy algorithm that is YouTube. Or if you're listening to this later on the podcast feed there, by leaving a review of the podcast if you've not already done so. You can follow along with us on social media at X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and of course YouTube. You can find us on all platforms at Parks and Cons. Wrapping up here from what will soon be the Hall H line. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.